Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Monday, December 27th. We hope each and every one of you had a very Merry Christmas. As always, I'm joined on Mondays by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com for our college football betting edition. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Ross. I know you said you had a very good Christmas and everything else like that, and I did as well. So, hey, we push along to get ready for 2022, and along the way, we have a quite a few bowl games. Not as many as we thought or hoped, but we got a few to go. So let's just dial it up and have some fun some more this upcoming week.
Yeah, again, we're recording on Monday the 27th, and a bowl game tonight was canceled. The game between East Carolina and Boston College that was to be played at Fenway Park, if I recall, or no?
No, that one was late. The Fenway one got canceled. That's later in the week, but
yeah. Fenway, the Fenway Bowl or whatever it's called got canceled, and East Carolina Boston College game, whatever bowl game that would have been tonight, and that got canceled. And we were looking forward to it because myself, Doug, and Chip Chirimbus all loved East Carolina in this contest. But hey, you adjust and move on. A little bit frustrating. We've been doing a lot of adapting over the last 2 years. That's all I know, Doug. Any other interesting things you'd like to talk about in the world of college football betting before we get to our free picks?
Sure. Last week at this time, we were talking about all the overs and all the underdogs, and that's kind of leveled off. There's a number of favorites, including one that just ended not long ago with Western Michigan wiping out Nevada. On the biggest line move of any of them, to my knowledge. Went from, I think, from 7-7, basically, or thereabouts, on both teams. But other than that, there's just been more favorites have won. The number of overs has slowed down. Just some things of interest, and I added one more thing right now. Favorites are 11-5, but only 8-8 against the spread. Okay, so we have that. Favorites of 3 or less, though, are 3-1 straight up and against the spread. And favorites of 10 or more, though, even though they've won 3 out of 4, they're just 1-3. Yeah. Okay. The other key area, like I said, it leveled off, but in the totals in the 50s are now with today's game 7-4 to the over side. And one other thing I just looked up out of curiosity, and it's not let's just say mind blowing, certainly in terms of that, but it's a example of, let's just say, a way people that follow the direction of where the lines are going. Okay. And sometimes there's a train of thought that, you should be on one side or the other from that point of view. And so what I did is I went through the bowl games that had a line move of at least 2 points. Okay. And this was either from the beginning to either at closing or just before closing, on the lines. Mm-hmm. And with those, but then nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with, let's just say, players opting out, just plain, pure and simple. Like they talk about the 3-point shot, it's like the
great equalizer. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So from that standpoint, so what we have though so far is ATS line moves of 2 or more. Okay. Standard 4 and 5 against the spread. Totals of 2 or more either direction. Okay. 5-4 over. Again, not earth-shattering news, but it's just I guess my point is that when you follow line moves, okay, sometimes there's no absolutes.
No.
I guess that's the big point I want to establish there. Don't fall in love there. People say, follow the trend, go against the public, follow the sharp money. Well, I know there's both of those instances involved in there. And as I just mentioned, there's not much to follow, particularly in those. So you have to be more selective and understand what you're looking at.
That's an extremely good point, because what I do is when I see those types of line moves is decipher why those may have occurred. There's 3 attributing factors. Number one is players, key personnel out on one side. The other might be some COVID related issues. that's taken out a third of the team or whatever have you. We're seeing a lot of that in the NFL right now. And getting back to your point, Doug, again, when you're trying to spot, easy for me to say, sharp money, make sure you're looking at the line the right way. I mean, not only looking at the line and determining in your own mind, okay, that's got to be a sharp money move. Have some money-based statistics behind it. And what I mean by that, folks, find yourself a credible site that you're comfortable with, that you find very accurate on a daily basis, and see if you can get access into the money bet on that game and the volume of bets that were made on that game. And when you see some type of reverse line movement, and again, people still to this day who've been doing it for 30 years, when I say reverse line movement to them, most of them have to have that explained to them still. And, until the internet came into fruition, not a lot of people talked about reverse line movement. And that's a really key contributing factor to your handicapping arsenal, or it should be to some degree over the last 4 or 5 years with all the information on the web. A perfect example of that would be is if a team opened up at -3 and 60% of the bets on that team, or 60% of the point spread wagers were made on that team, and less than 50% of the money, and that line went from -3 to -1. That's what we would deem as a reverse line movement, and you would think that would be sharp money on the underdog, Doug. I hope I explained that correctly and I didn't confuse the heck out of you. But my point being is Doug's brought up a really, really good point. And you need to find a way how to decipher line movement. And you're not always going to be right. And there's no set way. Just because you spot sharp money because of reverse line movement doesn't mean that's a 75% sure thing. You have to pick and choose and treat each situation as its own entity. Anyway, Doug, free pick for us on Thursday, December 30th. And what bowl we're looking at? The Las Vegas Bowl.
Yes, I am. And it's two teams that I'm very familiar with because I spent a lot of time in both of those locations. So lived in Wisconsin for 20 plus years, and I've been here in the Phoenix area for a little over 17. So I'm very well tuned into both football programs, and and even though this is a minor bowl game by Wisconsin standards, okay, it's in Vegas. And if you know anything about Wisconsin people, they love to go to Vegas. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think, and so with, I don't know how long they'll stay, but believe me, they'll have a good time. And the craps tables and the blackjack tables will be overflowing anytime other than when the game is being played. Now, Wisconsin comes into this one, Ross, that, as you know, one of the best defenses in the country all season long, only giving up 16.4 points per game. What held this team back? Well, it was the offense. But it wasn't just one factor of the offense, like some people like to think it is. A lot of people blamed it on below average quarterback play. Certainly some truth in that, okay? And in their 4 losses this year, Wisconsin only averaged just over 13 points per game in those losses, okay? So that was a big part of I should say the quarterback play was one of it. The other thing, overrated difference makers on the perimeter. Everybody thought all the injured receivers that came back from last year were going to be a big difference maker. Didn't happen. Other thing, the head coach and the offensive system. It's old fashioned. It lacks deception. Okay. It's just basically, it's for the most part, ground and pound, throw the ball to the tight ends. Okay. And a little bit to the outside here and there. But even in their ground game, very little deception, very little movement. Most of it is just through the A gaps with some to the outside. So it's the whole combination. And, and the offensive line got better as the season went on, Ross, but it wasn't as good, certainly, as any number of different years that you can look at in terms of how the offensive line played. Now, Arizona State, their defense wasn't bad either. They only gave up basically 21 points per game. But how you beat the Sun Devils, okay, is you go right at them. Okay, and that's where the problem lies. This year, the 3 best rushing teams that they faced, UCLA, Utah, and Oregon State, all had at least 200 yards rushing. And against the other 9 teams that Arizona State played, they only gave up 100 yards rushing per game, basically. On offense, Jalen Daniels, nice, legitimate dual threat quarterback, but his passing accuracy isn't going to scare anybody, and he's not going to remind you of Aaron Rodgers. I can guarantee you that. So there's not a whole lot there. Plus, for Arizona State, their top rusher, Rashad White, has opted out. So where is Arizona State going to be able to put together any consistent offense against this defense? Great question, right? So when I look at this game, I see the Badgers having some real edges, both on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Follow that up with Arizona State. Now, this goes back a few years, but as we know, a lot of times when you have a history, it sticks with you. Arizona State is 3-8 against the number as a bowler. Wisconsin, as you might recall in their last game, which they lost to Minnesota, they had no running game. So guess what? After they have had a game in which they had 75 or fewer yards rushing, they come back and are 18-5 against the spread, winning by, you ready for this, Ross? 17 points per game.
Wow.
Well, I'm not going to say Wisconsin's going to win by 17, but I'll tell you what, I'll give them -6, and I have no problem thinking that Wisconsin wins by at least 10 points, Ross.
Yeah, again, they come off a bad rushing game, but you brought up that great statistic is how they rebound from that. And there's a lot of truth to be said there because it's been ground and pound for quite a while now at Wisconsin. It's not like they changed offensive coordinators, offensive philosophies, and none of that is pertinent. It's all pertinent. They may have changed offensive coordinators here and there, but the general theme of the 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense that we used to always reference Woody Hayes to have, yeah, that certainly applies here. And if Arizona's weakness on defense is running the ball straight at him, well, that's what Wisconsin does best. So I like your play, Doug.
Excellent. Great. Yeah. So what do you got, Ross? What
Well,
do you got
yeah, I'm going to be looking at the Pitt and Michigan State game, the Peach Bowl. And that's going to be played on Thursday night. And the opening kickoff time, 7:00. By the way, Doug's game is also on Thursday night, the Las Vegas Bowl. That goes at 10:30. So, hey, a double header of winners for you right here. Now, this game lost a little bit of their luster, Doug, because both Kenny Pickett and Kenneth Walker III opted out of this game to protect their draft status. It's no secret each one of those guys are going to be first-round NFL draft picks in the spring, and both are the best offensive players on each team. So, but I like this Nick Patty in the short time that he's been able, or the opportunities he's been afforded, which have been few and far between. He's really shined when he's got on the field. Now, having said that, most of his appearances have come in blowouts or games, whether Pittsburgh's way up most of the time or way down. But in any event, he's made 5 appearances this year, and Pittsburgh hasn't been way down in many games this year. So I would assume those 5 appearances came in games that the Panthers were blowing out the opposition. He went 12 out of 14 this year. Not an enormous sample size, but still, the kid came in and got it done. And over his career, 40 for 62, 64.5% passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's also run for 3 scores. Now, let's not focus just on the Pittsburgh loss of Kenny Pickett, because there's other players on this Pittsburgh offense, folks. This team was number 5 in total offense in the year for the year in college football, and number 3 in scoring at 43 points per game. I'm not suggesting they're going to even approach those types of numbers here, but there's a lot of offensive talent around Nick Patty where he doesn't feel like he has to put the game on his shoulders and his shoulders alone. And I'm sure, Doug, that the play calling from the Pittsburgh offensive staff will reflect that, and it'd be more of a conservative approach than they would have, obviously, with Kenny Pickett under center. And, Michigan State, 10-2, but Boy, what a terrible defense. This has got to be the worst defense I've seen for any 10-2 team ranked in the top 25 in quite some time. As a matter of fact, it's no exaggeration, folks. Michigan State is 117th out of 130 Division I teams in total defense, allowing 455.8 yards per game. And on top of that, they're dead last, number 130 out of 130 in pass defense, allowing 338 yards per game. Now, again, they're going to be facing a backup quarterback, but a backup quarterback, like I alluded to, that when he's on the field has done very well. He's not going to throw for over 300 yards, I don't think anyway. It wouldn't shock me. But the point is on the defensive side of the ball, I think this is where this game's going to be won. Pittsburgh still, even without Kenny Pickett, their defense has been spectacular this year, at times anyway. Number 2 in college football in sacks with 51, and number 6 against the run, 91.8 yards per game. I know that Kenneth Walker's out of this game, but I still think that Michigan State will have the same pass versus run balance as they normally have. And if that's the case, between Pittsburgh's pass rush and their ability to stop the run, I think that will be the difference in this game. And I'm going to talk about a line move. Pittsburgh went from a favorite in this game to a 2.5-point dog. And yes, folks, as Doug touched upon, do your homework here, because that was not a money line or a money motivated move. That was more the a shift when Kenny Pickett opted out of this game. So I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Panthers here, Doug, plus the 2.5. You may find a 3 out there. If you can get minus 135 or less, I'm buying this up to 3. I would seriously contemplate doing so because that's a key number. But Doug, repeat again who you like and what you got coming up.
Yeah, so Ross, well, I actually like your pick as well. And I think the key point that you mentioned is the defenses for both teams. So I think that's really what would seem to be the difference in the game, because I mean, as you mentioned, Michigan State pass defense, I mean, they're going to come up with stuff. Their offense is already built, to do that. So I think they'll be in good shape. I agree with you on that one. It's Doug Upstone at docsports.com is where you can find me at. The bowl season, I have started 3-3. I was disappointed with the Army game when they took the lead and then couldn't hold it against I forget
Missouri.
who they played now. Missouri. I'm sorry. Yes. So I was disappointed by that, but hey, you know what? 3-3, we got a long way to go. Got to, basically the rest of this week. So got to have a lot of games. I have 3, a total of 4 between Tuesday and Wednesday, including 6-unit best bet on Tuesday. And then when Docs has their normal releases, which will be on Thursday at 6 Eastern, for sure, I'll have a number of plays then for the rest of the weekend for with all the big bowl games that are coming up. And so look for that as well. And that's all at the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports.
Yeah, we got the college football playoffs coming up too, Doug, on Friday. Looking forward to that, like a lot of people are. And nice to see a little new blood in there, with Michigan. Even though they're a iconic program, they've never been to the college football playoffs. So nice story with Jim Harbaugh finally getting a win over Ohio State. Now he gets himself into a college football playoff. A lot of articles before the season started with Harbaugh being on the hot seat. I think that got a little cooler, and we'll see. I mean, they're going to have a tough matchup against Georgia. That other one's intriguing with Alabama and Cincinnati. Boy, oh boy, Doug, minus 13.5 for Alabama in that game. I just hope that Cincinnati could keep this game as competitive as possible. So I don't know. I have my doubts, but we'll see. Anyway.
Well, the one thing I was going to say, the one thing that to your point though, about that, at least that gives them a chance, is the fact that they do rush the passer well.
Yes.
And as opposed to Georgia, they have a much better secondary. Now, will it be enough against all those Alabama weapons? That's what we'll find out.
Yeah, it's Cincinnati it's a tough team to gauge, Doug, because when they had to step up this year, like against an SMU, who at that time were in the top 25, they routed them. And then in the AAC championship game, against a Houston team that had won 11 games in a row. They won that and covered that decisively. So, and then there was other games where they struggled against Tulsa. They struggled against Navy. Where you say, well, maybe this team isn't that good. But I think presented with this situation and unique opportunity, I really like this Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. He'll have his team ready to play. Now, whether they get overwhelmed from just overall talent on the other side of the ball, that remains to be seen. But in any event, we're getting off track here. I look forward to those matchups. You can find me at rbwins.com, where my college football picks 30-17 over my last 47, folks. That's good for 64%. I'm getting it done when it matters most. I'll have a plethora of college football bowl picks this week, Tuesday through Saturday, including picks on each of those college football playoff games and a 10-star top play on Friday in one of those contests as well. So that's rbwins.com. You can find Doug at docsports.com. And again, Doug likes the Wisconsin Badgers on Thursday, and I am on the Pitt Panthers. So good luck, folks. I hope you have a very happy holiday season. Stay safe. And from both of us, good luck and God bless.